Ciao a tutti, this is Gemma with your Jupiter in Dhanishta Nakshatra. Today marks the day where Jupiter and Mercury come into a very tight conjunction. They're sitting at 23 degrees in Dhanishta. Now, Dhanishta is the lunar nakshatra that sits between Capricorn and Aquarius. The reason why Jupiter in this Dhanishta is so important is because it is working with the past full moon as well as the upcoming lunations this month, so new moon and full moon. And I really want to get into the specific spiritual aspects that are occurring with Jupiter. And another reason this is so important is Jupiter has been in a tight conjunction with Saturn in Capricorn for a while now. And now it's beginning to create more space. And the reason that this becomes very impactful for you is the more space as it begins to traverse past Saturn, the more the Jupiterian energy becomes a little bit more expansive, a little bit more liberated. It's not in Capricorn, which is a lot more regimented, which doesn't really vibe with Jupiter. So let's get into it. Dhanishta is a nakshatra that symbolizes or is symbolized by the drum or a flute. And this is very, very important because when it is symbolized by the drum or the flute, it essentially is indicating that we, the individual, are the vessel. And we are to attune to divine reception. And we are to become hollow. If you think of a drum or your flute, it plays music in its acoustics because of its hollowness. Now, when we become hollow, we are in a receptive vehicle to play the divine music, for divine to move through us on a more prominent level, not only to be the recipient of divine love and divine wisdom, but also to be the instrument in which divine moves through us. Now, the reason that this becomes so important, especially today, is the word Jupiter is sitting in with the other planetary aspects is it's really starting to give us another refresh on karma. Now, karma in terms of the past life actions, I want you to think of at this juncture karma in terms of mental thought and emotions. Because the moment we have a thought or an emotion, that creates an energetic reverberation. And that creates almost a karmic cycle. Now, the reason this is very, very impactful is we've passed, again, this last full moon in February really marked a precipice on not having a relevance into the past. The past few months have had a precipice in terms of we are starting a new cycle as a collective, but also for you individually. Now, with this last full moon having no revelation in the past, what we're working with then is our space and time space reality. How are we creating? How are we manifesting with a new karmic imprint? How are we manifesting from the divine self? Now, remember, when Jupiter is in Dhanishta, we have a few other planets playing a conjunction. We have the Sun and Venus that are in a super tight conjunction in Aquarius and going to move into Pisces. Venus is technically combust, and this is moving us to the light of the soul, so that the soul is creating. We're not creating from typical Venusian energy. So again, the creation must move from this light of the soul. And then we have Mars playing with Rahu in Taurus. And this is a lot of energy moving towards it. Can be explosive, can be expansive. And it's on how we are building. So when we take all of this into account and we look at Jupiter in Dhanishta, are we becoming the hollow well to receive all these divine impulses so we can be the true instrument? Now, what happens again is the karma of thought. This new plane is asking that we reset some of the karmic ties, maybe that might be lingering, or thoughts that are coming forward from previous karma. Because when we have these thoughts that are tethered to the past or previous experience, our drum, our well of who we are is not really hollow, it's imprinted. And so from this point, you're having an amazing ability with Mercury sitting so tight to Jupiter to see the levels of consciousness. Now let's talk about the levels of consciousness. The levels of consciousness is we're being able to see through the veil of ignorance. Now, again, being the hollow well and seeing the karma, you're having an opportunity. This is your opportunity as an individual to work with karmic energy or planetary energies and see these karmic ties. What is tethered to this and is tethered to this? Is this a previous emotion or experience? Because memories live in time, space. Memories is how we have a reference from time, what we had in our past, and how we make it relevant in our space, who we are in our energetic field, our reality, our world. So with Mercury here seeing through the levels of consciousness, you're able to see, meditate, but able to see, do I have karmic ties of thought imprints, emotional imprints that are withholding my ability to recreate on a whole new level, that are maybe giving another past imprint that is not going to fully manifest the light of my soul. Again, Venus and Sun, we are really heavily moving into more of a soul-driven purpose, more of a soul-driven creation. The inner light will be the guiding force. So when we have this, it creates a veil or an ignorance, and it starts to hold and bind. Now that isn't really beneficial in terms of how you're wanting to create, how we're going to move this life force, Martian, Rahu energy into new desires, into a new world, into a new way of being. So Jupiter here is asking that we maybe, with Mercury, peel back even more layers. And when you do this, you're going to have an opportunity to see karmic imprinting and how it's affecting your current relationship to the light of your soul, the current relationship on how you are showing up in this time, space, reality, and how it's possibly skewing your manifested abilities. Another thing that is occurring within this Jupiter in Dhanishta and this wisdom of expansion energy that is occurring, that's going to move us into the new moon, which is on the 13th of March, is it's going to move on the 13th of March. Mars will hit a specific exaltation point, a unique degree within Taurus, that's going to allow us to utilize this life force energy. Again, Mars rules life force, to input life force energy and move us forward. What's going to come forward is insecurity is starting to stir from now into new moon and probably until the end of this month. Really check, are there karmic ties or experiences that are causing you to doubt yourself, causing you to seek outside of yourself? Can you be the complete well and receive divine intervention, divine love, fullness, and allow that to be the precipice in which you move forward with the light of the soul? So what this is, it's a lot that is stirring. It's a lot that is unfolding. But when Jupiter does this, it's creating expansion. It's creating an expansive nature. So as this month unfolds, Jupiter will continue its trek through Dhanishta. And as it continues its movement through Dhanishta, okay, Jupiter is in Dhanishta until May 22nd. So this vessel of who you are becoming is going to unfold completely until that point. But as it moves through this month, we're going to unfold insecurities that may be tied to previous karmic patterns, insecurities that may be tied to old mental thought patterns. Again, there is no past. There's only hue right now in this moment. Let's talk about what Jupiter embodies. So Jupiter has 8 factors of abundance. And the more that we embody the Jupiterian energy, the more that these abundance and wealth will come forward. Jupiter doesn't really like to be limited. It is wisdom, but it's the wisdom that comes from, excuse that siren, from being in oneness. It really is the true embodiment of divine consciousness, the all. And it's not that anything can hold you, it's that everything is available to you. And that thusly is that you are a wealth of abundance. My sincere apologies to everyone. Let me let that pass. Okay. So Jupiter has 8 qualities. Okay, and that is the power of becoming small on one wishes, the power of becoming a light as one wishes, the power of obtaining anything one desires, the power of irresistible will, the power of becoming as large as one wishes, the attribute of supreme greatness, the capacity to suppress one's desires and passions, and the ability to fill all of one's desires. Now, what this happens are these gifts, this abundance of wisdom in life comes forward when we are in the full embodiment of Jupiter. Now, again, as Jupiter begins to move and pull away from Saturn, more of its expansive nature comes into play, especially as Jupiter exits the portion of Dhanishta in Capricorn and moves into Aquarius, into the expansive of consciousness, right? At this point, when Jupiter is playing and moving through, and you're working with mercurial energies to say intellect, to come back and think, what is tethered? Am I creating karmic ties or karmic thoughts or imprints or emotions or experiences that may have been influenced from the past? Can I be an empty well? The other aspect of this Jupiter energy with the other planets that are playing is Venus is going to, when it creates insecurity, it's going to possibly rely on our previous mechanisms of soothing, especially in terms of external. So external beautification, external identification, external, and I'm not saying don't take care of yourself. I'm not saying don't look good, but don't use those things as a mechanism or a method to identify the ego. The ego will be very challenged during this point. It will go through a lot because it is time to purge the way that the ego identifies itself and fill itself up. So those things will become dissatisfactory if you're trying to create from an identification or an ego standpoint. Venus in the light, right up on the sun, it's not going to work. The sun, the light of the soul, wants to burn that away, so you create from the soul, not from the external. Again, Venus is one of the teachers of the demons. So be mindful of using your demons, your addictions, or things to placate any type of insecurity or discomfort that you might feel. Another thing that might arise during this juncture is when the ego shifts and we are asked to look beyond or look within and see how we are carrying certain mechanisms and ties, we want to hold and control that process. So be extra mindful of trying to control certain processes or outcomes to sublimate or fulfill any insecurities that you might feel. This point of Jupiter in Dhanishta is really working with universal spirit and universal love, and it is requiring that we forego some of our own drama, just to be real, like our own social worries, our own like materialistic worries, my ego, my desire, my gain. I promise you that the desire that lives within your heart is going to flourish. It is divine will. It is why you are here. But that's not it. What we're looking at here and talking about here is the point where it's like, well, I need this in order to seem this way. Now, is that thought predicated on a previous experience? You must become hollow, and it's asking to give up even sometimes your own personal point of view. When you do this, you will become one with everything. Ego creates differentiation. It excuse me. It creates a difference between you and me and this and that, and so when ego is challenged here, these aspects will become broken away. They will be asked to be submerged into the all. I want you to think complete. When you're one with everything, there is no difference. There's only the uniqueness and radiance that comes through. This is really what's working through on such a higher level. So when you're moving through this, check some of your challenges, because this can be a challenging time. There can be sudden endings through this month, but it's asking you to see what is for the greater good of yourself. How can you be the embodiment of the 8 full powers of creation? And this will help move you into the abundance of Jupiter. The more that Jupiter gains space, and as the Sun and Venus begin to separate, you're going to have the 2 primary beneficiary planets, Venus and Jupiter, that are going to bring a wealth of abundance beyond what you imagined. When you create from the light of the soul, when you create from the hollow well, you will have fulfillment. You will have everything that you are seeking. And it's not so much about searching from the external or getting what you need from a selfish means, but it's by becoming everything you're meant to be that you will radiate and truly be as intended. And so work with these energies. Again, Jupiter will be in Dhanishta until May 22nd. This is a very impactful lunar month. If you want more insights on spiritually how this new moon is unfolding, you can check out that video on my YouTube channel. You can also visit my website at gemmachalento.com. I'll include the link below. Personal readings there, star charts, and also more spiritual resources. Sending you all so much love and many blessings during this auspicious time. Remember, you have all that you need already within you. Just work with it.